The computer light reflected on Ryan Miller's face as he typed the final line of code that Thursday. 42 years old, hair starting to thin at the temples, a slight paunch that insisted on appearing despite his attempts at the gym, but eyes that still shone with the same curiosity as when he'd created his first startup at 23. Now, 2 decades later, his tech company was worth $40 million, but Ryan still worked late, personally reviewing every important project. His cell phone vibrated on the mahogany desk, a message from Brooke. "Honey, I miss you so much." "When? Are you coming home?" Ryan smiled. Brooke Carter, 28 years old, a model with a smile that seemed to light up any room. They had met 6 months ago at a contemporary art exhibition in downtown Manhattan. He was there because he loved art, she because she had been hired to pose next to the pieces. Their eyes met near an abstract sculpture, and Ryan felt something he hadn't experienced in years. Leaving now. "Love you." He saved his work, shut down the computer, and looked out the 23rd floor window. New York City glittered below, a constellation of lights that pulsed with its own life. Ryan Miller, the shy kid from upstate who programmed on a used computer, now had a penthouse in Tribeca, 3 imported cars, and a stunning fiancée. But it was her affection he valued most. The sweet texts during the day, the kisses on his forehead when he woke up, the way she said she was proud of him. It all felt like an improbable fairy tale. His secretary, Martha, entered the office with a folder. 50 years old, efficient. She had worked with Ryan for 15 years. "Wedding documents, Mr. Miller, just need your signature." Ryan opened the folder and saw the official papers. 2 weeks. In just 2 weeks, he would marry Brooke in an intimate ceremony at a vineyard estate in Napa. No big parties, just close friends and family. It was exactly what he wanted. "Martha, can I ask you a personal question?" The secretary raised her eyebrows. "Of course, Mr. Miller. Do you think I'm rushing things?" "I mean, it's only been 6 months." Martha sighed and sat down in the chair across the desk. "Mr. Miller, in all these years working with you, I've seen a lot of things. I've seen you build this company from the ground up. I've seen you make decisions that seemed crazy and turned out to be brilliant. But I've also seen you alone, working late, eating alone in this office, spending birthdays, reviewing contracts. If Miss Carter makes you happy, if she brings light to your eyes like I see now, then it's not rushing. It's life happening." Ryan felt a pang in his chest. Martha was right. He had spent years focused only on work, on building his tech empire. Previous relationships had failed because he was too intense, too focused, too boring. But Brooke seemed different. She laughed at his explanations of algorithms, accompanied him to museums even when she didn't understand the art, and watched documentaries beside him on the couch. "Thank you, Martha. That means a lot." "You deserve to be happy, Mr. Miller. Just don't forget to get a solid prenuptial agreement." Ryan chuckled. "My lawyer has suggested that 3 times already, but I don't want one. I want Brooke to know that I trust her completely, that our marriage isn't a business transaction but a union of souls." Martha nodded, but Ryan noticed a shadow of concern in her eyes. She didn't say anything else, just picked up the folder and left. In the private elevator descending to the garage, Ryan thought about the life he would have with Brooke. Maybe kids, a bigger house, trips through Europe, visiting museums. She always said she wanted to see the Louvre, the Uffizi Gallery, the Prado. He imagined them holding hands through the streets of Paris, her laughing with that contagious joy. The black Mercedes was parked in his reserved spot. John, his private driver for 5 years, opened the door. "Good evening, Mr. Miller." John was a 45-year-old man, discreet and reliable. He knew all the routes in New York and never asked indiscreet questions. "Good evening, John. Home, please." Traffic was heavy on the FDR drive. Ryan took the opportunity to read the messages that had arrived during the meeting. 3 from Brooke, all affectionate. 1 from his sister, Julia, asking if he was sure about the wedding. 1 from his lawyer, insisting again on the prenup. Ryan locked his phone and looked out the window. Couples walked on the sidewalk, some holding hands, others arguing. Life was unpredictable like that. You could plan everything, create perfect systems, but the human heart was an algorithm no one could fully decipher. Arriving home, the penthouse was lit up. Brooke was waiting for him in the living room, wearing a light blue dress that highlighted her green eyes. She ran to him and hugged him tightly. "You took so long, honey, I was worried." Ryan kissed her on the forehead. "Sorry, darling. Investor meeting. But I'm here now." They had dinner on the balcony overlooking the city. Brooke had prepared an Italian pasta dish, although Ryan suspected their cook, Maria, had done the heavy lifting. It didn't matter, it was the gesture that counted. "I'm so excited about the wedding, Ryan. It's going to be the happiest day of my life." "Mine too, Brooke. You make me so happy." She held his hand across the table. "I know I'm different from you. I like parties, clubs, more superficial things. But with you, I learn new things. You teach me to appreciate the beauty of deep things. I love you for that." Ryan felt his eyes well up. It was everything he had ever wanted to hear. Someone who loved him not despite who he was, but because of it. "You complete me, Brooke. You bring lightness to my life." They stayed on the balcony until midnight, talking about their honeymoon, where they would live, and the dreams they had. Brooke mentioned that she wanted to open a clothing boutique, something of her own. Ryan immediately offered financing, but she refused, saying she wanted to do it herself, in her own time. This made Ryan love her even more. She wasn't just after his money, she wanted to build something of her own. The next morning, Friday, Ryan woke up to the sun streaming through the curtains. Brooke was still sleeping. Beside him, her hair spread on the pillow. He watched her for a moment, still incredulous that this incredible woman would soon be his wife. At the office, the day was a blur. Launch of a new app, server issues, meetings that stretched indefinitely. At 5 in the afternoon, John appeared in the conference room with an apologetic expression. "Mr. Miller, I need to ask for tomorrow off. My mother is having surgery in Philadelphia, and I need to be there." Ryan immediately agreed. "Of course, John. Family comes first. Stay there as long as you need." "Thank you, sir. Do you need a driver for tomorrow?" Ryan thought for a moment. Brooke had scheduled a spa day with a friend. He had promised to pick her up at 3 in the afternoon for dinner together. "Don't worry about it. I'll pick her up myself." John looked relieved. "Thank you very much, Mr. Miller. You're a good boss." After John left, Ryan had an idea. A crazy, fun idea. The kind of thing he never did. What if he disguised himself as the substitute driver? It would be an innocent prank, a way to surprise Brooke. She always thought he was too serious, too formal. Maybe this would show his more relaxed side. The more he thought about the idea, the more excited he became. He could wear simple clothes, leave his beard unshaven, take one of the most discreet cars in the garage, the silver Corolla he rarely used. It would be like going back to his college days when he had no money and drove a beat-up car. Ryan sent a text to Brooke. "Honey, John is off tomorrow. I'm sending a substitute driver to pick you up at the spa at 3. Kisses." The reply came quickly. "Hi, love. See you at dinner. Love you." Ryan smiled. It would be a fun afternoon, a funny story to tell their kids someday. The day Dad disguised himself as a driver. In that moment, looking out the office window at the city glittering under the afternoon sun, Ryan Miller had no idea that this innocent prank would change his life forever, that in less than 24 hours he would discover truths that would shatter the world he had carefully built over 6 months of romance. But for now he just smiled, thinking about the surprise he would prepare for his future wife. Saturday dawned with that clean blue sky typical of New York after a week of rain. Ryan woke up before Brooke and lay watching the ceiling, thinking about the prank he would pull. Part of him thought the idea was childish, but another part, the one that rarely surfaced, was excited about the possibility of doing something spontaneous. Brooke stirred beside him and slowly opened her eyes. "Good morning, love." "Good morning, beautiful. Excited for the spa?" "Very. Patricia is going with me. We're doing massages, facials, all those girl things you find boring." Ryan laughed. "I don't find them boring. I just don't understand the difference between facial hydration and antioxidant treatment. That's why you need me, my love, to teach you these important things in life." They had breakfast together on the balcony. Brooke ate only fruit and yogurt, always concerned about her figure. Ryan allowed himself a bagel with cream cheese, one of the few simple pleasures he kept from his childhood in upstate New York. At 10 in the morning, Brooke left in her own car, a white BMW that Ryan had given her the previous month. He watched her leave through the window, waving enthusiastically. As soon as the car disappeared around the corner, Ryan began his preparation. He went to the closet and looked for the simplest clothes he owned. Dark blue jeans, a grey polo shirt, a black baseball cap, and sunglasses he had worn on a trip to Cancun. He put everything on and looked in the mirror. He barely recognized himself. Without the Italian suit, without the Swiss watch, without the executive's upright posture, he looked like just an ordinary guy. He decided not to shave, letting the grey stubble that he usually kept trimmed show. The effect was surprising. He looked 10 years older and much less refined. Ryan went down to the garage and walked past the imported cars until he reached the silver Corolla. It was the car he had bought when the company first started making a profit, before the fortune arrived. He kept it for sentimental reasons, although he rarely used it. It was perfect for the disguise. He got in the car and started the engine. The sound was discreet, nothing like the roar of the Porsche or the smoothness of the Mercedes. Ryan smiled to himself. This was ridiculous, a 42-year-old man playing dress-up. But that was exactly why he wanted to do it, to prove that he could still be spontaneous, fun, different from the serious businessman everyone knew. The spa was in an upscale neighborhood in the West Village, a place frequented by businessmen's wives and models like Brooke. Ryan parked on the street in front, 2 blocks away, and sent the agreed-upon message. "Your driver is arriving. Silver Corolla." He waited on the corner, observing the spa entrance from behind his sunglasses. At exactly 3 o'clock, Brooke and a friend walked out the main door. The friend was Patricia Costa, also a model, a tall woman with platinum blonde hair whom Ryan had met on 2 occasions. She had always been friendly to him, although he noticed a certain disdain in her eyes when they talked. Ryan honked discreetly. Brooke looked at the car, said something to Patricia, and the two walked toward the vehicle. Ryan's heart raced. It was a silly prank, but he was nervous like a teenager. Brooke opened the back door without looking at the driver. Patricia got in right after her. Both settled their expensive bags on the seat and closed the doors. Ryan kept his face down, the cap covering part of his forehead. "Good afternoon." His voice came out intentionally deeper, with an accent that tried to imitate the rideshare drivers he had taken. Brooke replied, without even lifting her eyes from her phone. "Good afternoon. Can you take us to the Westfield Mall, please?" Ryan blinked. The mall? Hadn't they planned dinner? He thought she would come straight home, but he decided to go along with the prank. After all, the detour made things more interesting. "Of course, ma'am." He started driving, keeping his eyes fixed on the road. Through the rearview mirror, he watched Brooke and Patricia. Both were absorbed in their phones, typing furiously. For the first 5 minutes, neither of them spoke. Ryan began to regret the idea. Maybe he should reveal the disguise now, before it got too weird. But then Patricia broke the silence. "That volcanic clay treatment was amazing. My skin feels ridiculously soft." Brooke lifted her eyes from her phone and smiled. "I told you, that spa is the best in the city, worth every penny." "The $1,000 you spent." Brooke laughed. "Technically, Ryan spent it. But yes, it was totally worth it." Ryan felt a squeeze in his chest hearing his name mentioned with such casualness, but it was just a normal conversation between women, he reminded himself. He paid for her things because he was her fiancé. It was normal. The two continued talking about beauty treatments, which anti-wrinkle cream was better, and an actress who had apparently had a disastrous cosmetic procedure. Ryan drove in silence, just an invisible driver to them. Traffic was slow on 6th Avenue. Ryan stopped at a traffic light and took the opportunity to adjust the rearview mirror, looking for a better angle to observe Brooke without being obvious. She was beautiful, even after hours at the spa. Her brown hair fell in perfect waves over her shoulders. Her tanned skin glowed. Her green eyes looked like jewels. Patricia turned to Brooke with a conspiratorial expression. "So 2 weeks left? Are you excited for the big day?" Ryan stiffened in the front seat. Here came the part he wanted to hear. Declarations of love, excitement about the wedding, maybe even an emotional tear. He would smile inwardly, saving this moment to tell her later, when he revealed the disguise. But Brooke's answer caught him, completely off guard. Excited is a strong word, Patty. Ryan felt his stomach clench. There was something in her tone, a coldness he had never heard before. He looked in the rearview mirror and saw Brooke give a cynical smile, different from the sweet smiles she always gave him. Patricia raised her eyebrows. "What do you mean? You're getting married, girl. You should be jumping for joy." Brooke sighed and looked out the window. "Look, Patty, I'm going to be honest with you because you're my real friend. Ryan is a nice guy, affectionate, kind, treats me well, but he is incredibly boring." The words hit Ryan like punches. He gripped the steering wheel so hard his knuckles turned white. He must have misheard. Brooke couldn't have said that. Patty laughed, but it was an uncomfortable laugh. "Brooke, you shouldn't talk about your future husband like that." "Why not? It's the truth. He only talks about investments, stocks, technology. You want to know what our last romantic date was? Watching a documentary about the 2008 financial crisis." "A documentary, Patty?" 3 hours about banks failing. I almost fell asleep. Ryan could barely breathe. Every word was a stab. He had always thought Brooke liked those quiet nights, the educational films, the deep conversations. She always said yes, always seemed interested. But then, why are you marrying him? Patricia's question hung in the air. Ryan stopped at another red light, the city continuing its frantic pace around them, while his world began to silently collapse inside that silver Corolla. Brooke took a moment to answer. When she did, her voice was different, colder, more calculated. "Because he has $40 million, Patty, $40 million. The light turned green. Ryan could barely press the accelerator. His feet felt like lead. But he kept driving, keeping his face forward, the sunglasses hiding the eyes that were starting to sting. Patricia was silent for a moment. When she spoke, her voice was shocked. "Brooke, you're not serious." "I am. Look, I know how it sounds, but it's reality. Ryan is old, kind of bald, a little chubby. He's not the type of man I would normally date. But he has money. A lot of money." Ryan felt nauseous. The physical descriptions, uttered with such disdain, were like acid on open wounds. He had looked in the mirror that morning with hope, preparing a fun surprise. Now he heard the woman he loved describe his body as something repulsive. "But you're getting married," Patricia asked. "Isn't that wrong?" "Wrong is being poor, Patty. Wrong is working your whole life and having nothing. My mother worked as a cleaner for 30 years and retired with peanuts. I swore I wouldn't be like her. I have beauty, youth, and I know how to use that to my advantage. And what are you going to do? Stay married to him forever?" Brooke laughed, a sharp, cruel laugh that Ryan had never heard before. "Of course not. My plan is simple. I endure 2 years of marriage, maybe 3 if I really have to. Then I file for divorce, and by law I get 15, maybe 20 million. It's my investment, Patty, better than any stock on the market." Ryan thought he was going to throw up. He pulled the car over to the side of the road, pretending to check something on the dashboard. He needed a moment to process what he was hearing. Patricia continued questioning. "What if he finds out? What if he realizes you don't love him?" Brooke guffawed. "That man is so needy and desperate for validation that he believes anything I say. He thinks a 28-year-old model actually fell in love with him. It's pathetic, but it works in my favor." Ryan returned to traffic on autopilot. His hands guided the car, but his mind was elsewhere, trying to process what he had just heard. Pathetic, needy, desperate. The words echoed in his head like a torturous song that refuses to stop. In the back seat, the two continued talking as if there wasn't a human being just inches away from them, as if drivers were just pieces of urban furniture, invisible and unimportant. "But Brooke," Patricia protested, "what if you actually fall in love with him in those 2 years? It happens, you know." Brooke rolled her eyes. "Patty, darling, have you seen him? The man wears sandals with socks at home." "Socks, Patty. He watches documentaries about carnivorous plants and finds it fascinating. At the last dinner we went to, he spent an hour talking about blockchain with the waiter. The waiter, who obviously wasn't interested at all, but was too polite to interrupt." Patricia giggled, and that sound was an added betrayal for Ryan. Even the friend found the Situation funny. I admit that's kind of nerdy. It's totally nerdy. And the worst part is he thinks he's being interesting. He genuinely believes those conversations about algorithms fascinate me. I spend the whole time on my phone when he's talking, and he doesn't even notice. Ryan remembered the nights on the couch, Brooke always with her phone in her hands, him thinking she was just quickly checking messages before turning her attention back to him. But she was simply ignoring everything he said. All those moments he judged intimate, special, were just tedious obligations for her. And you never felt remorse? Patricia asked. He treats you well, you said so yourself. Of course he does, he gives me everything I ask for. This car I'm driving, $200,000. The clothes in my closet, over $50,000 just in handbags. This ring here, she held up her hand showing the ring, $10,000. He's generous, I'll give him that. But generosity isn't love, Patty. It's compensation. Compensation for what? For not being the man I really want. For being boring, old, uninteresting. But you know what's funny? He thinks these things are proof of love. Every expensive gift, he waits for my reaction like a puppy wanting a treat. It's almost sad. Ryan felt tears burning in his eyes. He controlled his breathing, maintaining his composure. He couldn't reveal who he was now. He needed to hear everything, all the truth, no matter how painful. Traffic continued to crawl. They should be close to the mall by now, but Ryan started thinking about another destination, a place where he could end this once and for all. Patricia sighed. You're cold, Brooke. I always knew it, but I never thought it would come to this. It's not coldness, Patty. It's pragmatism. Look at our friends. Marina married that 60-year-old businessman. Everyone knows she doesn't love him. Fernanda lives with a guy 30 years older than her. Julia is on her third marriage, all to rich men she divorces in a few years. They all do the same thing I do, but they're hypocrites. They pretend it's true love. At least I'm honest with myself. Honest with yourself, but dishonest with Ryan. Brooke shrugged. He doesn't need to know the truth, and honestly, he doesn't even want to know. Men like him live in a fantasy. They want to believe they are attractive, desirable, interesting. If I came out and told him the truth, if I said I'm only with him for the money, he would be devastated. But as long as I pretend, he can live happily in his bubble. In the end, I'm doing him a favor. A favor, Patricia repeated incredulously. Yes. For the next 2 years, he'll have a beautiful young wife who shows up at his social events and makes him look successful, not just professionally, but personally. I improve his image, it's a fair trade. Ryan gripped the steering wheel even tighter. Brooke's twisted logic was stunning. She had transformed her betrayal into an act of benevolence. She was doing him a favor by lying, by using him, by planning to steal half his fortune. And after the divorce? Patricia asked. What are you going to do with all that money? Brooke brightened, her voice taking on a dreamy tone. Oh, Patty, I have everything planned. I'm going to travel the world. Not those boring cultural itineraries Ryan likes, but beaches, parties, places where life really happens. Ibiza, Mykonos, Dubai. I'll buy an apartment in Miami, something with an ocean view. Maybe I'll open a clothing store, but only if it's fun. I won't need to work with 20 million in the bank. What if he fights the divorce? What if he doesn't want to give you the money? Brooke laughed confidently. That's why we didn't get a prenup. He insisted on it himself, said he wanted to show trust. Can you believe it? He signed his own death warrant. By law, I'm entitled to half of everything acquired during the marriage. I'll hire the best lawyers. I'll secure every penny that's due to me. Ryan felt a mix of anger and sadness so intense that he had to blink several times to keep his vision clear. He really had made everything easy for her. In his naivety, in his desire to prove unconditional love, he had handed over the weapons for his own destruction. Patricia was silent for a moment. When she spoke again, her voice was more serious. Brooke, I've known you for years. You were never like this. When we started working together, you were different. What happened? Brooke's voice lost some of its hardness. Life happened, Patty. I got tired of depending on men who used me and then discarded me. I got tired of being the pretty girlfriend they showed off but never took seriously. I decided that this time, I'm the one who's going to use. I'm the one who's going to come out ahead. It's my turn. But doesn't that make you just like them? No, because I'm honest about my intentions, at least with myself. And if that makes me a bad person in the eyes of society, then so be it. I'd rather be rich and bad than poor and good. Ryan no longer recognized the woman speaking in the back seat. The sweet Brooke who said I love you every night, who hugged him in the morning, who seemed genuinely happy beside him. All lies, all acting. She was such a good actress that he, an intelligent man who had built an empire, had fallen completely into the trap. The more she spoke, the more he understood the extent of the farce. The affectionate texts during the day were just maintenance of the illusion. The smiles when he came home were calculated. Even the intimate moments, which he thought were real connections, were just part of her plan. Ryan looked in, the rearview mirror again. Brooke was fiddling with her phone with a small smile on her lips. She was completely at ease, without any remorse. And why would she? She believed she was only talking to her friend in a car driven by a stranger who didn't even know her name. Patricia sighed. Well, if you're sure about this. But be careful, Brooke. Karma exists. Brooke laughed. Karma is for those who believe in fairy tales, Patty. I believe in marriage contracts and divorce laws, real, tangible things. Ryan made a decision. He wasn't going to the mall. He had another destination in mind. A place that would end this charade once and for all. Silently, he turned the car onto a side street, completely changing the route. Neither of the two women in the back seat noticed immediately. They were too busy with their phones. But then Patricia looked out the window and frowned. Hey, driver, you're going the wrong way. The Westfield Mall is in the other direction. Ryan took a deep breath. It was time to end the disguise. It was time to show Brooke that the needy, desperate man she so despised was smarter than she ever imagined. Without saying anything, he continued driving in the direction he had chosen. His hands no longer trembled. The initial pain was giving way to a cold, determined clarity. He knew exactly what he needed to do. Patricia tapped the back of the front seat. Hey, are you listening to me? Stop the car now. Ryan finally spoke, but this time he didn't use the disguised voice. He used his normal voice, the one Brooke had heard so many times, saying, I love you. We're making a quick stop first. It won't take long. The silence that followed was absolute. Ryan looked in the rearview mirror and saw the exact moment Brooke recognized his voice. He saw her eyes widen in shock, her hand fly to her mouth, her phone slipping from her fingers and falling onto the seat. She whispered, her voice shaky and unrecognizable. Ryan! He took off the cap and sunglasses, tossing them onto the passenger seat. He looked at her through the rearview mirror, his eyes meeting hers. Hello, Brooke. Did you enjoy the spa treatment? Brooke's face completely lost its color. For a moment, she looked like a statue, frozen in shock. Patricia looked, from one to the other, her mouth open in a perfect O of horror. Ryan continued driving, keeping his eyes alternating between the street and the rearview mirror. He wanted to see every expression on Brooke's face. He wanted to witness the moment she realized that the entire facade had crumbled. Ryan, Patricia tried, her voice coming out in a whisper. I didn't know. I swear I didn't know it was him. Ryan spoke calmly, his voice controlled despite the storm raging inside him. Of course you didn't know, Patricia. The disguise was perfect, just a common driver, invisible, unimportant. Someone in front of whom you can say anything because drivers aren't real people, are they, Brooke? Brooke finally found her voice, but it was unrecognizable. Trembling, desperate, nothing like the confident tone of seconds ago. Ryan, honey, I can explain. It was a joke. I wasn't serious. You know me. Ryan gave a bitter laugh. I thought I did. For 6 months, I thought I did. But it seems I was talking to an actress. A very talented actress, I must admit. You completely fooled me. No, honey, you're misunderstanding everything. I was. What, Brooke? You were what? Testing your friend? Playing a prank? Please don't insult me more than you already have. I heard every word. Every single damn word. The car turned another corner. Brooke looked out the window, and her panic increased when she recognized the neighborhood. Where are you going? To the courthouse, the same one where we signed the marriage papers, remember? That was 3 weeks ago. You cried that day, said you were the happiest woman in the world. Another masterful performance. Ryan, please stop the car. Let's talk. Let's go home and talk calmly. There's nothing to talk about. Brooke, you made everything very clear. Let me recap to make sure I understood correctly. You think I'm old, boring, a little chubby, and kind of bald. You think my conversations are tedious and that I'm desperate for validation. You plan to endure 2, maybe 3 years of marriage with me, which you described as a tedious obligation, and then divorce me and walk away with $15 or $20 million. Did I miss anything? Tears began to stream down Brooke's face. But Ryan felt no pity. Those tears were not of remorse or love. They were of desperation for the ruined plan, for the fortune slipping through her fingers. I love you, Brooke sobbed. I really do love you, Ryan. I was confused. I was scared. But I love you. No, you don't love me. And you know how I know? Because I know what love is. Love is waking up in the middle of the night just to make sure the other person is breathing peacefully. It's canceling important meetings because she mentioned she wanted to go to an exhibition. It's memorizing the way she takes her coffee just to prepare it exactly how she likes it. I did all that for you, Brooke, everything. Ryan stopped at a red light and turned completely to look at her. Her tears continued, staining her perfect makeup. But you don't even know what my favorite documentary is, do you? You don't know what book changed my life. You don't know why I started the company, because you never cared to know. To you, I was just a walking ATM. That's not true. It's not. Then tell me, Brooke. Tell me one thing about me that has nothing to do with money or status, one thing. Brooke opened her mouth, but no sound came out. She tried, searched desperately in her mind for something, anything, but found nothing. And that silence was more revealing than any confession. The light turned green. Ryan continued driving, his jaw clenched. Patricia, who had been silent until that moment, finally spoke. Mr. Miller, I am so sorry. I shouldn't have participated in that conversation. I should have stopped her. Ryan briefly looked at Patricia through the rearview mirror. You don't need to apologize, Patricia. In fact, I should thank you. If you hadn't questioned her, maybe Brooke wouldn't have revealed everything so clearly. You did me a favor. They were 2 blocks from the courthouse. Brooke tried one last time, her voice almost a scream. Ryan, please, I made a mistake. I was being stupid, greedy, but I can change. Give me a chance. Ryan parked the car in front of the courthouse building. He turned off the engine and turned to Brooke again. A chance? You had 6 months of chances, Brooke. 6 months when you could have been honest. You could have said you didn't love me. You could have ended it before I truly fell in love. But you didn't. You preferred to continue the charade, planning every step of your scam. Brooke lunged forward, trying to touch his shoulder, but Ryan pulled away. Don't touch me. You lost that right when you decided I was just an investment. But I changed. In these 6 months, I started to really like you. If you really liked me, you wouldn't have said all those things. Words come out of the mouth, but they come from the heart. And your heart, Brooke, is cold and calculating. Ryan got out of the car and opened the back door. Brooke recoiled as if he were going to force her out. But he just stood there, waiting. Get out, Brooke. We're going to resolve this now. What if I don't want to? What if I refuse? Then I'll go home, get all the papers, and come alone. But I prefer you to be here, for you to see with your own eyes what you lost. Brooke looked at Patricia, seeking some kind of support, but her friend just shook her head sadly. There was nothing she could do. There were no magic words that could fix this. Slowly, Brooke got out of the car. Her legs were trembling, and she had to lean on the door for a moment. She seemed to have aged years in minutes. The confidence, the radiant beauty, everything had vanished. Ryan walked toward the courthouse entrance. Brooke followed him, her high heels echoing on the sidewalk like a funeral march. Patricia stayed in the car, understanding that this was not her moment. Inside the courthouse, the clerk smiled upon recognizing Ryan. Mr. Miller, what a surprise. Did you come to pick up the final wedding documents? No, Claudia, I came to cancel everything. The clerk's smile disappeared. She looked from Ryan to Brooke, sensing the tension. Oh, are you sure? It's an important decision, I am absolutely sure. Please start the procedures. Claudia nodded and began typing on the computer. Brooke took another step toward Ryan, her voice just a whisper. Ryan, I beg you, Don't do this. Give me a chance to prove I've changed. He finally looked at her, truly looked. He saw the tears, the desperation, the smeared makeup. And for a moment, just a moment, he felt pity. But then he remembered the words pathetic, needy, investment, endure the marriage. You haven't changed, Brooke. You just got caught. And now you're desperate because the plan failed. But you don't feel remorse for what you did. You feel remorse for being discovered. That's not true. It's not. Then answer honestly. If I hadn't disguised myself today, if I had never found out, would you have told me? Would you ever have been honest with me? Brooke remained silent. And that silence was the answer. Claudia looked up from the computer. Mr. Miller, I'll need both of you to sign here. The cancellation is official and immediate. All marriage documents will be annulled. Ryan took the pen and signed without hesitation. Then he pushed the papers toward Brooke. Sign it. What if I don't sign? Then I file a lawsuit and make everything public. Every detail, every word you said in the car. I record all conversations in my cars, Brooke. For security, I have everything recorded. Do you want this to become news? It was a lie, but it worked. Brooke's face paled even more. With trembling hands, she took the pen and signed. It's done, Claudia announced. The wedding is officially cancelled. The documents will be archived. Ryan thanked her and turned to leave. Brooke grabbed his arm, a last desperate attempt. What am I going to do now, Ryan? I quit jobs for you. I changed my whole life. He gently but firmly pulled away. You'll do what you've always done, Brittany. You'll find another target, another rich, lonely man who believes your lies. But let me give you a piece of advice. Next time, check if the driver is actually a driver. He walked out of the courthouse without looking back. Brittany stood there, alone in the middle of the lobby, her sobs echoing off the white walls. Robert returned to the car in silence. Patricia was still in the back seat, looking down at her lap, clearly uncomfortable. He got in, started the engine, but didn't leave immediately. He just sat there, hands on the steering wheel, staring into space. Dr. Robert, Patricia began, her voice hesitant. I really am sorry. I should have been a better friend to her. I should have stopped this. Robert shook his head. Don't blame yourself. Brittany is an adult. She made her choices, and you, inadvertently, saved me from a mistake that would have cost much more than money. It would have cost my sanity. He looked at Patricia in the rearview mirror. Can I drop you off somewhere? The nearest subway station is fine. I don't want to bother you anymore. You're not bothering me. And Patricia, I know you and Brittany are friends, but please, don't share the details of this with other people. I don't want this turning into gossip. You can count on me, Dr. Robert. I won't tell anyone. And to be honest, after today, I don't know if we're still friends. Robert dropped Patricia off at the subway station and drove aimlessly for a while. He didn't want to go home yet. The penthouse was full of memories of Brittany. Her clothes in the closet, her beauty products in the bathroom, photos of them together on the shelf. He drove through the city, passing familiar places. Illuminated Paulista Avenue, Ibirapuera Park starting to close, the streets of Pinheiros full of people enjoying Saturday night. Life continued normally for everyone else, but Robert's world had been turned upside down. He stopped at an overlook with a view of the city. He got out of the car and leaned on the railing, watching the lights stretch out to the horizon. São Paulo. Never slept, always pulsing with energy and movement. But at that moment, Robert felt completely disconnected from it all. He picked up his cell phone and saw several messages. 2 from Brittany, begging to talk. 1 from Patricia, thanking him for his discretion. And 3 from his sister Julianne, asking how his day was going. Robert called Julianne. She answered on the second ring. Rob, finally, I was worried. How did the day with Brittany go? Robert took a deep breath. Jules, I need to tell you something. The wedding is off. Silence on the other end. Then Julianne's voice came low and controlled. What happened? Robert told her everything, from the disguise to the courthouse. Julianne listened in silence, only making small sounds of comprehension. When he finished, she sighed deeply. Rob, I don't know if I should say this, but I never fully trusted her. There was something in her eyes, a coldness that appeared when she thought no one was looking. "Why didn't you ever tell me? Because you were happy. I saw you smiling again, laughing, living. After so many years focused only on work, you finally seemed to be building a personal life. I didn't want to ruin that based only on a gut feeling." Robert rested his head on the cold metal railing. "I was an idiot, Jules. I believed everything. Every sweet word, every affectionate gesture. I really thought she loved me. You weren't an idiot, Rob. You were human. You wanted to believe in love. There's nothing wrong with that. But she used me. She planned everything. Even the way she kissed me was calculated. How am I ever going to trust anyone again? You will trust because not everyone is like her. There are good people in the world, Rob. People who will love you for the incredible man you are, not for what you have." Robert felt his eyes sting. "She said I'm boring, Jules. Old, a little chubby, balding. She said she prefers clubs to documentaries, that my conversations about technology are tedious. And the worst part is maybe she's right. Maybe I really am all those things," Julianne interrupted firmly. "Stop that right now, Robert Mendez. You are one of the most interesting men I know. You built an empire from scratch. You create technology that improves people's lives. You read, you think, you question the world. If she thinks that's boring, that's her problem, not yours. You don't need to change who you are to please superficial people. But I'm 42, Jules. I'm getting old. The belly is showing. The hair is thinning. Who is going to want me like this? Who is going to want you? Any woman with a brain and depth. Look, Rob, you might not be a magazine model, but you have something much more valuable. You have character. You have intelligence. You have a huge heart capable of loving deeply. That's worth infinitely more than defined abs." Robert smiled for the first time since the courthouse. "Thanks, Jules, I needed to hear that. Come home tomorrow, we'll have dinner together, watch a bad movie, eat ice cream straight from the tub. It will do you good. I promise I will. I love you, sis. I love you too, Rob. And remember, this pain will pass. It seems impossible now, but it will pass." Robert hung up and stayed for a few more minutes looking at the city. Julianne was right. The pain would pass. But at that moment, it was sharp and present, cutting deep. Finally, he went home. The penthouse was dark and silent. Marina, the cook, had already left. Robert turned on just one light and went straight to the bedroom. All of Brittany's things were there. The dress she would wear for the wedding hung on the closet door. Boxes of imported shoes. Expensive makeup scattered on the vanity. Each item a painful reminder, but Robert didn't have the energy to deal with it now. He simply went to the guest room, threw himself onto the bed, still dressed, and let the emotional exhaustion win. The following days were a blur. Robert informed the few wedding guests that everything was cancelled without going into detail. Most accepted without questions. Some expressed concern. Marianne, his secretary, showed up at the apartment on Monday with homemade food. "Dr. Robert, I brought lasagna. I know that in times like these, people forget to eat." Robert hugged her, something he had never done before. "Thank you, Marianne. You're a friend." At work, he threw himself headfirst into projects. It was easier to think about code and algorithms than feelings. The company was launching a new educational app, and Robert spent nights reviewing every detail. But at night, when he returned home, the loneliness was deafening. He had all of Brittany's things removed, donating most to charity. He sent the wedding dress back to the store. 2 weeks after the incident, Robert was in a bookstore in Villa Maddalena. He had always loved bookstores, the smell of new books, the infinite possibility of stories. He was looking for biographies when he bumped into someone. "Excuse me," he said automatically. The woman he bumped into smiled. She was different from Brittany in every way. About 35, maybe. Brown hair tied in a messy bun, reading glasses hanging around her neck, wearing jeans and a simple top. She carried 3 books in her arms. "No problem, I was distracted too. This place is dangerous for the wallet, right?" Robert smiled back, a genuine smile. "Very dangerous. Every time I come, I leave with twice as many books as I planned to buy." The woman laughed. "Me too. I came to get just 1 book for the reading club, and look at this." She showed the 3 books. No Self-Control. Robert looked at the titles. All literary classics: Machado de Assis, Clarice Lispector, Graciliano Ramos. Great choices. Brazilian literature. You read national literature? Most people I know only read American bestsellers. Robert brightened up. It was rare to find someone who shared his taste. I love Brazilian literature. I think we have some of the best writers in the world. Machado's psychological depth, Clarice's poetry. I completely agree. You know, I'm looking for Dom Casmurro for the reading club, but I can't find a good edition. Robert knew exactly where it was. Come, I'll show you. There's an excellent annotated edition in the classics section. He guided her through the bookstore, talking animatedly about books. She introduced herself as Laura Miller, a literature teacher at a private school. He introduced himself only as Robert, omitting his last name and the company. They talked for 40 minutes among the shelves, completely forgetting the time. Laura was intelligent, funny, passionate about what she did, and best of all, she seemed genuinely interested in what Robert was saying, asking questions, debating viewpoints. When they finally said goodbye, Laura said, "It was great talking to someone who really understands literature. My students are sweet, but they don't always appreciate Machado as they should." Robert hesitated, but then said, "If you want to talk more about books, I frequent this coffee shop nearby. On Wednesday afternoons, usually." Laura smiled. "Maybe I'll show up there." And she did. The following Wednesday, Robert was at the coffee shop when Laura walked in, carrying a bag of books. She waved when she saw him and sat down across from him. "So, have you finished Dom Casmurro yet?" Weeks turned into months. Robert and Laura started meeting regularly at the coffee shop, always on Wednesdays. They talked about books, but also about life. Laura talked about her students, the challenges of teaching classic literature to teenagers addicted to social media. Robert talked about technology, passionately explaining how artificial intelligence could revolutionize education. And Laura listened, really listened. She asked intelligent questions, showed genuine interest. There was no rush, no hidden agenda. It was simply two people connecting through honest conversations. One day, 3 months after they met, Laura asked, "Robert, can I ask you a personal question?" "Of course." "Why is an intelligent, interesting, and kind man like you always alone in this coffee shop on Wednesday afternoons? Not to sound invasive, but you seem like the type of person who should be in a serious relationship." Robert hesitated. He hadn't told her about Brittany, about the cancelled wedding, about anything that had happened. But Laura deserved to know. "I almost got married a few months ago. 2 days before the wedding, I found out she was only with me for the money. She planned to divorce me in 2 years and take half of my fortune." Laura's eyes widened. "Wow, Robert. I'm so sorry. That must have been devastating." It was, but it was also liberating in a way. It forced me to realize that I was building something on lies, and it taught me to value honesty above all else. Can I ask how? Can I ask? You found out?" Robert smiled sadly. "I disguised myself as a driver to surprise her. I ended up overhearing a conversation between her and a friend where she revealed everything. Every insult, every plan, every lie." Laura reached out and touched his hand across the table. It was the first time there had been physical contact between them. What an idiot woman, to lose a man like you for greed. Robert felt something shift in his chest. It wasn't the overwhelming passion he had felt for Brittany, that storm of emotions that blinded him. It was something deeper, more stable, like roots deepening in the earth. "And you, Laura? Why is a beautiful, intelligent teacher who is passionate about literature alone?" Laura laughed. "Beautiful. Robert, I've worn glasses since I was 10. I have hair that doesn't obey any comb, and my idea of a perfect Saturday night is staying home reading. I'm not exactly what most men look for. You're talking to a man whose perfect Saturday night is watching documentaries. I think we're perfect for each other." Laura blushed, something Robert found absolutely charming. "Are you asking me out, sir?" "I am." "How about dinner? A quiet restaurant, where we can talk without noise?" "I'd love to." The first official date was revealing. Robert chose a small Italian restaurant in Villa Maddalena, nothing ostentatious. just good food and a cozy atmosphere. Laura showed up wearing a simple dress, her hair loose, falling over her shoulders. During dinner, Robert found himself genuinely laughing for the first time in months. Laura was funny without trying, intelligent without being pedantic, interesting without needing to draw attention. She didn't check her phone once during the 3 hours they spent together. When Robert told her about his company, about the $120 million it was worth, Laura just said, "Wow, that's impressive. You must have worked really hard." There was no change in her behavior. There was no calculation in her eyes, just genuine admiration for his effort. "You know what I find most impressive?" she asked. "It's that you still have passion for what you do. Many people get rich and stop working, but you keep creating, innovating. That's admirable." Robert felt something healing inside him. With Brittany, his financial success was a curse disguised as a blessing. With Laura, it was just part of who he was, not the whole. The following months were like rediscovering what it was like to be in a healthy relationship. Laura introduced him to her teacher friends, all interesting people with rich but not luxurious lives. Robert took her to meet his sister Julianne, who pulled him aside and whispered, "This one, Rob, this one is real." Robert introduced Laura to Marianne at the office. His secretary, always cautious, talked to Laura for 20 minutes about Brazilian literature. Afterward, when Laura left, Marianne said, "Dr. Robert, this woman has kind eyes, keep her." In the 6th month of their relationship, Robert and Laura were on the penthouse balcony. She had been amazed by the view, but not by the value of the property. Amazed by the beauty of São Paulo seen from above, with the lights that looked like terrestrial stars. Laura rested her head on his shoulder. "You know what I love most about you, Robert?" "What?" "That you are exactly who you appear to be. There are no false layers, no constructed persona. You are genuine, and that is rare." Robert kissed her, a sweet and honest kiss. "I love that you make me want to be better, but you accept me as I am. That is the foundation of true love, Robert. Acceptance and inspiration." 8 months after they met, Robert and Laura were in the same bookstore where they first met. He guided her to the classics section, the place where it all began. "Remember when we met here?" he asked. "How could I forget? You saved me from buying a horrible edition of Dom Casmurro." Robert knelt down. There was no elaborate audience, no photographers, no ostentation, just two people among books building something real. "Laura Miller, will you marry me, not for what I have, but for who I am?" Laura had tears in her eyes, but they were tears of genuine happiness. "Yes, Robert, 1,000 times yes." The wedding was simple, at Robert's sister's house, surrounded only by people who truly loved them. Laura wore a dress she chose herself, not designer, just beautiful and comfortable. Robert wore a suit, but didn't forget to put on his socks and sandals at home because Laura found that adorable. During the vows, Robert said, "I promise to love you through all our boring documentaries, all our nights reading side by side, all our deep conversations about books and life. I promise to always be honest, always present, always yours," Laura replied. "I promise to love the incredible man you are, the nerd passionate about technology, the voracious reader, the dreamer who changed his life with code and determination. I promise to be by your side in all adventures, whether they are in museums or at home on the couch." As they kissed, sealing that true union, Robert thought about how unpredictable life was. An innocent prank of disguising himself as a driver had revealed the worst betrayal, but it had also freed him to find true love. Brittany had been a storm that passed, leaving destruction but also clearing the way. Laura was the sun that came afterward, warming, illuminating, nurturing. And Robert, finally, was home. Not in the luxurious penthouse, not in the empire he had built, but in the arms of someone who loved him for being exactly who he was. The man who watched documentaries, who coded late, who had a belly and thinning hair, but who had a huge heart capable of loving deeply. And this time, that love was reciprocated in the purest and truest way. End of story. If Robert and Laura's journey touched your heart, know that we have many other emotional stories waiting for you. Stories about overcoming challenges, true love, second chances, and the beauty of finding someone who accepts us exactly as we are. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any narrative that will make you laugh, cry, and believe that real love exists. Leave a like if you root for true love and comment on which part of the story moved you the most. Your opinion is very important to us. Until the next story, and remember, genuine people are worth more than any fortune.